if someone has a garden pond and they want to encourage dragonflies and damselflies, what can they do to specifically kind of help them live in their ponds or encourage them to their ponds?
So something I didn't do that I'll hold my hands up to is that you should really only use rainwater. As we've heard from so many of the experts that it's the best thing for wildlife. There are a lot of chemicals in tap water, obviously, to make it safe for us as humans to drink and use. And they can take a long time to dissipate, even if you sort of leave them to evaporate. I've read that chlorine and things like that can take, I don't know, maybe months and even a year to evaporate off properly. And I have noticed my pond, as I did the no-no, I filled it with tap water. It had been very dry. So I'm in the east of England and we are technically a drought zone. We don't get a lot of rainfall throughout the year. And it had been very, very dry. It was one of the driest springs on record, I think we'd had, and one of the hottest Mays, I think. And my water butt was empty, and it was only a very small one anyway. And I dug quite a big pond. So I was in a bit of a dilemma as I wanted to get that liner in, and I didn't want birds or cats or anything coming in and ripping it. So I just wanted to get some water in it to protect it. So I just bit the bullet and put the hose pipe in and did it. And I knew it wasn't the right thing. I knew it, I wasn't advised to do it by anyone, but I wanted to fill it. I was a bit impatient. I probably should have waited and put more water butts in or planned it better. But the habitat's there. Wildlife are coming to use it. Birds are drinking from it. I've put lots of oxygenating plants in. So I have done some things right. So I've introduced some native plants in there. I've got hornwort, which is a really good oxygenator. And things like dragonfly larvae, any fly larvae, any invertebrates will be able to hide in that. Frogs and things like that will be able to hide in it as well. And it's a really good oxygenator, so great for the water quality, hopefully. And it will hopefully fix some of those excess nutrients I've got in there. And then I've got a few more things on order, like frogbit, which is a little floating plant, which I think is another native one. And it has little flowers, so it's meant to look like a little mini water lily. So that'll be good for creating a bit of shade as well, as you don't just want open water, you want a nice variety of different habitats within your pond. And something I did take a bit of time over was measuring my pond out and making sure I had the right levels in there, as it's all about creating different niches for all the different species that you want to attract. So I've gone for a nice bit of deep water in the middle. So that's about 70 centimetres deep. So I'm hoping that will be deep enough for amphibians to go to the bottom and hibernate over winter and not be too affected by temperature changes. And should stop it freezing over totally as well. And then I've got some nice kind of shallower shelves, so it comes sort of up from the deep bit. And then there's a nice little beach at the edge and then a deeper bit at the other end. So I've tried to go for lots of variety of depths and little shelves to put my plants on as well. So I would just say, whatever size space you've got, work with what you've got. And work with the shaped area you've got and what works for your garden. But just get that variety in there, get a nice deeper bit in the middle. So if you're going for wildlife pond, you top things you're going to attract are probably going to be amphibians and then invertebrates, and then birds and mammals will hopefully use it to drink from and bathe in too. So just think about all those different uses, I would say, as obviously that's not specifically dragonfly related, but it will benefit dragonflies, but why not make it benefit as many species as possible while you're there? And a top tip for plants as well, try and get ones that not only oxygenate and do lots of good things under the water, but get lots of nice marginals and emergents that have also got flowers, so they're good for pollinators as well. So you kind of you're getting more bang for your buck, to use an overused phrase. But hopefully the bees will be happy as well then, so you're attracting more wildlife in. And as I said before, dragonflies are top predators of other insects. So if you're attracting other wildlife into your garden, butterflies, bees, flies, anything like that, that's providing food for the dragonflies as well. So you're covering all bases really. And then don't forget to plant up around the pond as well. So when amphibians and things like that are coming out of the pond, they've got a nice little bit of cover. And then also dragonflies and damselflies will love to shelter in it as well. So that hopefully covers most bases. And people like Frog Life have got fantastic information on building wildlife ponds with amphibians in mind. So I would say read as many resources out as you can, as there's so much free information on the internet. And Wildlife Garden Project, I know you've done a few videos with them.
Yeah.
They've got some fantastic resources as well. So yeah, just read as much as you can and design it with as many species in mind as possible.
I know with my pond, I mean, when in my new house, I've got a 4 meter by 4 meter liner, so I'm going to try and do a much bigger pond than what I've got at the minute. But I've read up that dragonflies prefer slightly bigger ponds. I think they don't like tiny ponds. I guess that was the prey.
They won't.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think they will use a bit bigger pond. I think they just need a bit of a bigger space. But I'm not sure exactly why. I haven't read exactly why they won't use a smaller one. It could just be the surface area, or the oxygen levels are lower in smaller ponds if they're shallower. Something as simple as that, or there's not enough prey, like you say, for the larvae.
I guess if you think about it, I mean, I don't know how many eggs dragonflies have, but I'm guessing it's a hell of a lot. So if you've got hundreds of dragonfly larvae, then they're going to need a lot of prey, aren't they? So I guess a bigger pond.
They're quite voracious, aren't they? Dragonflies.
They are, yeah. If you go and you leave it in the tray with other stuff too long, then you're just going to have one very fat dragonfly larvae, aren't you? Eventually.
Yeah.
And the other plant I find really good for dragonflies is yellow flag iris, because, like you say, they create nectar, but also when the dragonflies emerge, the nymph climbs up that. I mean, they'll climb up anything, but that's a particularly good plant because they'll hang on and then emerge out of it. So that's another.
Yeah, something Rory Mackenzie Dodds, who is our dragonfly champion. I first got really interested in dragonflies as an adult by going to one of his courses when I worked for the RSPB in Scotland. And I would say it's his fault that I got interested in dragonflies. I blame it on him. he was just singing the praises of soggy logs, like just put wood into ponds. Because species like southern hawker absolutely love to lay their eggs and things like that, and then things like to perch on them as well. So yeah, they're really good. And make sure you put a dragonfly perch in. That's a really good top tip. If you can put a little log or just stick a branch into the ground near the pond so it just juts out over it, a bit like a kingfisher perch that you see people putting in at nature reserves, but in miniature. That's fantastic for dragonflies, and they might just come and bask in the sun over your pond or use it to hunt from. So that's a nice little top tip. That's it's not expensive. Just grab a stick from somewhere and pop it in, and they'll be really happy.
No, I tend to get logs from my river because obviously you want to be careful introducing fresh wood because that can have lots of tannins and things like that might not be great.
Yeah.
But if you get a log out of your river that's already washed through, I've got a couple of those jutting out of my pond. And I guess as well, they heat up quickly. So if dragonflies like to bask, so going on that, they'll warm up